Hello everyone. Happy New Year's. I hope everyone had a wonderful New Year's. Happy 2022, wherever you happen to be in the world. If you are brand new to this group and you don't know who I am Brianna. I am the founder of this group and I help teen girls and young women and anxiety, depression, self-loathing, self-harm, suicidal thoughts so that they can step into their power, their confidence, and love themselves. And the topic of this Facebook Live is just, look, I know a lot of girls are struggling with panic attacks. And what tends to happen is they might start out small where it's just like, oh, it's a couple of minutes, it's maybe it lasts a few minutes, right? Like a 3-minute panic attack. And then that will go on for a while. And then the panic attacks will get longer, they'll get stronger, they'll be, hey Noreen, live for a few minutes. Happy to have you here. This is my impromptu Facebook Live. I just thought I had some time, so I thought I would come on and share with you guys. Anyways, going back to the panic attacks, I think oftentimes for girls, they start out as like, they think they can handle them. They're just, oh, a few minutes here or there, not a big deal, or maybe it is a big deal, but then it slowly gets worse and worse. I get on calls with girls all the time and they're telling me they're having panic attacks that are like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I've had girls tell me that their panic attacks last longer than an hour. Can you imagine? And for some of you parents who also go through panic attacks, maybe you actually can imagine this, but going through a panic attack that lasts, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour is excruciating. And I want to talk about this. Oh, no worries, Noreen. I'm all good. I'm glad that you're here. I want to talk about, panic attacks and what is your daughter doing to contribute to these panic attacks that are blowing up her life. And she probably feels like she has no control over like her body when these panic attacks are coming on. I speak with girls and it's scary for girls because girls will get so afraid. Here's what happens with a lot of girls and young women. They start having the panic attacks. It freaks them out. So then they develop a fear over having the panic attacks. And what can happen is they'll limit what they're doing in their day-to-day lives because they're nervous because they don't know when the next panic attack is going to happen. So they don't want to go to school anymore because it's like, well, that's where the panic attacks are happening. Or they don't want to go out with friends because they don't know if being in a social situation is going to bring on panic attacks. And so what can happen, not all of the time, but what can happen is that the girls just isolate themselves. They sink dinker, I can't speak English right now. they sink deeper and deeper, they isolate themselves, and then comes, the depression. Depression and anxiety go hand in hand. And so, they're isolating themselves. They're staying in their room all day long. Well, why? Well, it's safe in the room if they're sleeping. Nothing like what's going to happen to them if they're sleeping all day long, right? And so the panic attacks can really take an extreme toll on your daughter's life. It can really put a stop to everything that she's got going on around her because she doesn't want to try new things. She doesn't want to go out with her friends. She doesn't even want to go to school. And so I have so many parents coming to me whose daughters, like, they've missed, 15 days of school, 20 days of school because, their daughter just doesn't want to deal with school. Why? Well, because they've had so many panic attacks, then it's just become this fear, this overwhelming fear of, I don't want to do that. If I stay home, I'm safe. If I'm safe, then I don't have to deal with these panic attacks anymore. But your daughter has to get a handle of these panic attacks because they will ruin her life if they haven't already, right? And so we have to take a look at, and I know oftentimes I've had girls in my program come to me and say, like, I've had girls text me or send me a voice message, like in the midst of having a panic attack, and they're like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Right? Because they're freaking out. So there's what your daughter does in the midst of having a panic attack, but it's what can she do to prevent these panic attacks from even happening, right? We've all heard okay, when you're having a panic attack, take deep breaths. Yes, of course. Take deep breaths. Deep breathing is so huge and so important, and it's going to regulate your daughter's nervous system. So that's going to be really, really important. The other important piece is your daughter's self-talk, right? How does she talk to herself? Not just during a panic attack. I'm talking about all throughout the day, every day. If your daughter is just beating herself up over and over and over again, telling herself that she's such a loser, telling herself that she's such a disaster, that she's a waste of space, that she doesn't deserve to be here, what's the point to her life? She should just kill herself. Well, of course, all of these thoughts that she is thinking is creating a sense of like this dysregulation in her nervous system, in her body. And so she's got to get control of her mind. She's got to get control of her thoughts. And she can absolutely do this. Your daughter is not hostage to her mind. She doesn't have to be hostage to her thoughts. But there does have to be a learning and a practice that your daughter has to develop, because these thoughts cannot keep wreaking havoc on her life, right? And so a lot of girls that come to me are they're living in a state of overwhelm, physical, mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. They're stressed out all of the time. There's so much anxiety. They're living in a state of fear and worry almost 24/7, okay? So when your daughter is living in this intense environment, this like personal environment where she's overwhelmed, she's stressed, she's anxious, she's in fear, like that creates a physical response in her body. The other thing is also true about panic attacks is that this also goes for a lot of other things, but specifically for the topic of this Facebook Live, panic attacks, it's like the body starts craving what your daughter is, how your daughter is showing up in her life. So let me give you an example. If your daughter has been struggling with anxiety and stress and overwhelm and panic attacks or depression, if she's been struggling with this, I'll get to your question in 2 seconds, Tanya. If she's been struggling with this for a while, it's almost like it's become comfortable, it's familiar, but it's also where the mind and the body just go to, almost like naturally. And what girls haven't really learned how to do is switch, like, how do I want to say this? Kind of, like I said before, taking control of their mind. First of all, they don't know how to do this. They don't know how to take control of their mind. They don't know how to take control of their body. And it's almost like all of these things are happening in here and in their body. And they're just like, I don't know what to do. This is overwhelming. And then the panic attacks happen. And then pretty soon, it's like they don't even know how to stop those panic attacks. And then those panic attacks get worse and worse and worse. And it just becomes a cycle. And your daughter is just struggling through it, not knowing how to get out of it, right? We have to look at the lifestyle that your daughter is living. Should we homeschool daughters that have this much anxiety? Look, homeschooling, that's a personal choice, Tanya. I can't really answer that for your daughter, but having worked with a lot of girls who have done the homeschool and a lot of girls who have, also been going through the anxiety and still go to school, there's pros and cons to both, right? Your daughter doesn't go to school. Let's say she's homeschooled, then she's also going to miss out on like social aspects, right? And so if your daughter is being homeschooled, then she's going to have to she's going to have to figure out how is she going to be social. Like if she's not seeing people at school every day, then the other thing that can happen is she's going to feel lonely and isolated and not have any friends anymore. And that could be even worse than just dealing with anxiety. So I don't have an answer for you, Tanya. Like it's a personal choice. But I don't think homeschooling your daughter because she has anxiety, in my personal opinion, is not the answer. Because what is your daughter never going to be able to go to play sports? Is your daughter never going to be able to have an art class? Is your daughter never going to be able to go to the mall? It's like when we limit what your daughter can do because she's having the panic attacks and she's having the anxiety, where does it stop? Is it going to stop with school? Or are there going to be other things that she's not going to be able to do, like drive a car, like go places, like go to the gym, right? Because it's going to be a never-ending thing. And so we really want to get ahead of this instead of being behind it, right? You can limit all of the social interactions that your daughter is going to have, but is that really gonna stop the anxiety for good? Maybe temporarily, but it's not the long-term answer, right? If your daughter wants to go to college one day, it's like, what is she gonna do online? You know, we can't keep just doing all of this. What is it just school that triggers the anxiety? She's social enough. Okay, then if she's social enough, look, again, that's your personal preference. If you think having her homeschooled is your answer, lots of girls are homeschooled. If it works for your daughter, then great. But I know that there's some pluses and minuses to that. But I'm curious, you're saying, what is it, just school that triggers the anxiety? Well, I'm curious what in school is triggering her anxiety, because here's the deal. We all have triggers, right? Different things can trigger different people. So if something that is triggering your daughter is like test taking, well, then can she figure out a way to, oh, it's a person. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I don't know if she's being bullied or what, Tanya, but I mean, if she is, maybe you can talk to the principal or go into the school and see if something can be done. I don't know if it's bullying or if it's just a person that she doesn't like or whatever, but anyways, going back, what I was saying about lifestyle, we have to take a look at your daughter's lifestyle, because if your daughter is constantly living in a state of anxiety, overwhelm, stress, exhaustion, right? She's almost in like this fight or flight, right? I've had girls that, like, I talk to them and they're like, they say that they hold their hands so tightly, like they're clenching their hands all throughout the day. And I'm like, why do you do that? And they're like, I don't know, I just do that. Like, okay, you're really, really anxious that you're holding on this tightly. Like, we have to let that go, right? But it's all about incorporating it's practicing a different lifestyle, right? And so what do I mean by that? Yes, my coaching program is virtual. Yes, Tanya. So what is it going to take for these girls to create a whole different kind of lifestyle? Well, one of the things that is so important for your daughter to get control of her anxiety is she's got to get control of her mind, and she has to get in front of those thoughts that are making her feel stressed and anxious and overwhelmed. So this is something that I teach the girls and young women that I work with, because they don't have to be hostage to their mind. So if they have, and it's really interesting how the mind works, because all it takes is one little measly thought. It could be like, oh my God, I'm really stressed over the math test that I have tomorrow, okay? So, but it's not usually gonna just stop there, right? It'll continue. Then it'll go into like, oh my God, I'm just gonna fail the class. I'm gonna be held back. I'm not gonna go to college. I'm such a disaster. My parents are gonna be so disappointed in me. Oh my God. And this is how these girls' minds work. And it's just like spinning. Like, it's like a washing machine. It's just like spinning out of control. And these girls don't know how to regain control. They don't know how to get out of that, because it's almost like they're watching it spin, but they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do to stop this. So one of the things that I teach my clients how to do is get into their heart. Get out of here and get into here. Now, most of us, we're all walking around and we're living in our egos most of the time, including your daughter if she hasn't done any of this work, right? Her ego, that's the place that likes to tear her down. That's the place that, is saying, that's the place where the stress and the anxiety and the depression and all of that stuff, that's because she's living in her ego and not in her heart. And you might be wondering, well, like, how does my daughter get into her heart? Well, there's a lot of different things that go into that. And if you'd like more information on that, watch my master class. It's called Healing the New Medicine for Anxiety and Depression. I talk about different ways that your daughter can get into her heart. But one of the ways that your daughter has to almost observe her thoughts. There's a wonderful, this isn't like a kid book or anything, but for any of you adults that like to read, there's a wonderful book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. and it talks about like observing your thoughts. When you think that you are your thoughts, and most girls and young women think that they are their thoughts. So if they have a thought that says I'm ugly, then they believe it. And they're like, okay, well, I guess I'm ugly. If they have a thought that says you're such a loser, then they believe it. And they're like, okay, well, it came from my head. So I guess that's just true. That's, you know, that's my reality. And it's not the case. It's not at all. But when your daughter can start learning how to, it's almost like here's your daughter and she's having all of these thoughts, and then if your daughter can come back here and see the thoughts, she doesn't have to attach herself to those thoughts. This is a practice. This is an everyday practice. I don't expect your daughter to pick this up from like, you know, reading like one book or watching a Facebook Live. It's like, this takes repetition. It takes practice. This takes a lot of consistency. And the thing that I see with a lot of girls is they lack that sense of consistency to want to do this work, right? A lot of girls want the quick fix. They want, give me the pill. Give me my miracle pill, my drug, so that I don't have to live in a state of depression and anxiety. And what we know is that just taking medication isn't always the answer. And if your daughter is on medication and you're still spinning your wheels trying to figure out like what's going on, this isn't working, it's because medication alone isn't always the thing that you want it to be, right? But a lot of girls don't want to do the inner work because, well, that actually takes time, right? And it's easy to stay stuck than it is to actually work on oneself, right? And so, you know, I did a post earlier today, and it's like, it's 2022. You know, your daughter gets to choose and she gets to decide, what is her life going to be like? What is it going to look like? What does she want to feel? What does she want to have? And here's the problem with so many girls, and going back into panic attacks, and if your daughter is struggling with anxiety, she keeps focusing on the anxiety. She keeps focusing on the stress. She keeps focusing on the overwhelm, and she's not focusing on how she wants to feel. This is the biggest thing that I see with girls. And oftentimes I ask my clients, well, how do you want to feel? Especially girls that are just like brand new in my program, and they look at me and they're like, you're asking me how I want to feel? I don't know how I want to feel, but I can tell you how I am feeling. That's the problem. Your daughter is living in a space where it's not conducive to helping her get out of it, because she keeps focusing on the stress, the anxiety. If your daughter is living in, let's say, almost 24/7, right? She's living in all of her stressful thoughts. She's living in all of the depression, the anxiety, the overwhelm, the panic, the fear, the worry, the self-doubt, the self-loathing. If she's living in that place all of the time, then how is she ever going to be able to create something new, right? She has to actually step out of where she is and step into who she wants to be. And again, most girls don't know how to do this, because if you ask them what they want, they will tell you what they don't want. And I'm like, no, tell me what you want. And I don't want depression anymore. I don't want anxiety anymore. No, you are not telling me what you want. You keep focusing on what you don't want. And when you focus on what you don't want, you get more of what you don't want, and it keeps continuing, and it's spinning, and it's getting out of control. And so really what your daughter needs is she needs to step out of her current reality. This means if your daughter is having panic attacks, if she is struggling with anxiety, if she's struggling with depression, if she's struggling with cutting, if she's struggling with suicidal thoughts, this goes for anything, eating disorders, I don't care what it is. Your daughter has to step into a new identity, okay? In order for your daughter to step in a new identity, she has to step into the person that she wants to be. Now, I hear all the excuses in the book. Oh, but I can't be that. I can't change. I can't transform my life. No, it's not possible. It might be possible for other people. It's not possible for me. No. It's you see, but I've struggled for so long. So it's not happening. I can't do it. I can't do it. This is just the way my life is going to be. I don't see this ever changing. Okay, so this is kind of the self-talk. This is the dialogue that goes on for so many girls that are struggling with their mental health. And we wonder why things are not changing. We wonder why your daughter is not happy, is not fulfilled, is not in a more peaceful state of mind. We wonder all the things, but the answers are like written all over the wall. It's your daughter's vibration. It's her energy. It's her thoughts. It's her beliefs. It is her state of being, right? We get so wrapped up in the doing that your daughter has lost that. Who am I being? And when we talk about who your daughter is being, we also have to look at your daughter's connection with herself. So many girls are so disconnected with who they are. They don't know who they are. They think they are their grades. They think they are their achievements. They think they are all of this stuff that's not who they are, because that's where they get that self-worth, that sense of validation, and it's simply not true. I've had so many high achievers come to me, and they're like, you know, they're all about the A's, the getting into the right school, and the perfectionism and all of that. And meanwhile, those same girls that are getting straight A's, right, are also in such a level of self-loathing. These are the same girls that have eating disorders. These are the same girls that are cutting themselves. These are the same girls that are feeling depressed. What does all the A's in the world get for a girl if she hates herself, right? And so we really have to take a look at, I know I started with panic attacks, but I'm going into so much more here, but it really comes down to who is your daughter being? Because from that place, she is attracting every single thing into her life. And here's the thing, if your daughter doesn't like what she's attracting into her life, then she has to look at, who am I being? How am I showing up in my life every single day? Because every single day, your daughter is attracting things and people and situations and feelings and emotions into her life based on who she is being and how she is showing up in the world, right? Again, most girls don't want to work on themselves, right? Which is crazy when you think about it, because these girls will go 8 hours to school because it's what is expected of them. But then they're like, but I don't want to work on myself. I don't want to work on myself. You know, just give me the pill. I'll be done with it. But I don't want to work on this depression. I don't want to work on this eating disorder. I don't want to work on the fact that I have suicidal thoughts every single day and I hate myself. I don't really want to put in the work on that. That's actually the most important thing that your daughter needs. More than anything else, more than the A's, more than the getting into the right college, more than the career one day. Like, if your daughter doesn't have control over her mental health, what does she really have? She's got nothing. Absolutely nothing. I want to talk about what does it look like for your daughter to invest in herself, and what does it look like for you to invest in your daughter. I'll speak from personal experience as someone who, yes, I am a coach, but as someone who has worked with coaches for well over 10 years, I am only where I am in my life. I attribute so much to the coaches, to the mentors, to everyone that I have worked with along the way and continue to work with, because I have multiple coaches to this day that I work with to help me up-level my life, right? Your daughter has so many blind spots and so many ways of self-sabotage in her life that she can't see from her vantage point, right? And so she needs somebody else to say, hey, look, this is where you are holding yourself up. This is where you're getting stuck, but this is where you can go. Here's the problem with therapy. Therapy keeps, I hear from a lot of girls that have been doing therapy, it's like they vent, they talk about their, they talk about their week, but it's like, where's the progression? How is it like, is it actually moving your daughter forward? And I don't mean just like baby steps. Like, we're talking about, is it moving your daughter to love herself? Is it moving your daughter to create a whole new reality for herself? Is it moving your daughter to be confident again, right? Like, we're not talking like baby steps. No, screw the baby steps. Like, your daughter deserves a transformation, especially if your daughter has been struggling with her mental health for a long time, which a lot of the girls that I work with have been struggling with their mental health for a long time because they've been doing all the things that have just not been working. And so they're like, a lot of these girls come to me and they're like, they feel hopeless. They're like, can anything help me at this point? I've tried therapy for 5 years. I've been on all of this medication. I've done residential treatment facility. I've been in the ER. I've done all of these things. The doctors have failed me. The therapists have failed me. The medication hasn't worked. What the hell do? I see lots of people that come to me in a state of desperation, right? Because they're like, I just can't do this anymore. And sometimes, not always, sometimes that's a good place to be because that's the thing that's going to spark something in your daughter to say, I need to change and I need to change now. Some people have to reach their rock bottoms before they're going to rise up. They need the help to rise up though. They're not going to be able to do it on their own. And if you keep doing the same things that aren't working, you're going to get similar results. This is why you need to do something different if you want different results. And speaking, I'll just share this, like something personal about myself. Like this year, I just signed up for like a 3-month program to work with a naturopath. I want to get like my hormones and my health and all the things sorted. And so right now I'm actually on a cleanse. And so I'm not eating no meat except fish, no dairy, no gluten, no sugar. And so I'm on day 3 of my cleanse. And anyways, it's like clean eating all the way. And I invest in a personal trainer. Like this morning, I was at the gym and I love going to the gym, but I also love somebody telling me what I need to do, right? I need somebody, like, not always, but I do like to have somebody tell me like, okay, so what do I need to do with the gym? Because if I'm going to do all of it on my own, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. I don't have the right form. I don't have the right technique. I'm doing it the wrong way. My trainer said to me this morning, he was like, do the things that we do together, do them on your own as well. But he said, if the form is incorrect or if you feel like it's incorrect, just wait. And then like, we'll go over it together. And I think the thing that is also true for girls, like I can use my personal training experience and bring it back to your daughter. Your daughter can try to do all the things on her own. Like she can try to watch like a YouTube video. She can try to take some of the stuff that her therapist is saying. She can try to like piece things together, and you may also be trying to piece things together, seeing if something's gonna stick, if something is gonna work to help your daughter. But what if none of that is actually working, right? The thing that I see so often is self-sabotage. Girls love to self-sabotage themselves. They don't intentionally do it, but they end up doing it. Why? Why is there so much self-sabotage going on? Because it's easier to stay stuck than it is to change. Because if your daughter changes, then who would she be? If your daughter changes into a whole new identity, that is very scary for her mind because that is stepping into the unknown. If your daughter has been struggling with anxiety or depression or suicidal thoughts or eating disorder or whatever it is, self-harm, whatever she's been struggling with, if she's been living in that for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, right? Now we talk about, well, who do you want to be? And your daughter is like, I don't know. And she gets tongue-tied and she doesn't even know how to like articulate what she wants to be, because stepping into someone new can create a lot of fear, right? It's the unknown. Here's the thing about the mind. The mind doesn't like the unknown. It wants to keep everything feeling safe and comfortable and familiar. And this is why my girls in my coaching program, the ones that show up, the ones that put in the work, are always the ones to get the biggest transformation at the end of my program. Why? Because it's the consistency, because they have the support, because they have that kind of like hand holding, like they can reach out to me. They have another coach. Like there's so many components that they get in this program because it's all in support to help them succeed. Not just in my program per se, but in the rest of their lives, right? And so they have the support set up. They have the tools and the skills that they are being given. And so this is how they're able to go 12 weeks and have a major transformation, where girls out there are doing therapy for 5 years and not transforming one bit, right? So what are they getting differently in my program that they're not getting in therapy? Well, there's a couple different things, and I can go on. Patty, it's 12 weeks. It's a 12-week coaching program. It includes private coaching and group coaching. There's another question up here. Barbie says, I'm interested in signing up my daughter for your class. I was just talking about it with her yesterday. Perfect. Yeah, so one thing that I will say about my program is it's not for everyone, because I don't accept girls into my program that don't want to be there. Why? Because it is an uphill battle all the way that I just don't want to deal with. And I'll tell you why. Because if girls don't want the help, it's like they're not going to do the work. They're not going to be like practicing what they are learning. And so it's just a waste of time, money, and energy for everyone. But if your daughter is serious about wanting to change her life, and she's serious about showing up and being committed, then yes, of course, she would be an excellent candidate for my program. One of the things, so going back, I had mentioned before, like therapy and this program, and what are the differences? Like, why are girls coming into this and 12 weeks later having a full-on transformation and doing years and years of different therapists and this therapist and this therapist and this therapist, and they're still self-harming and they still have the eating disorders and they still hate themselves? So what's the disconnect? What is going on there that what we're doing over here, right? So one of the things that is so important, and I say it like almost on every single Facebook, I think this is going to be a long Facebook Live, but it's all good. I'm flowing. One of the things that I always talk about this is that your daughter has to feel, right? If your daughter is stuffing down her emotions, and I'm just going to say this, if your daughter is struggling with her mental health, she is stuffing down her emotions. Absolutely, she is. And then she goes to unhealthy coping mechanisms because she doesn't know how to deal with that, right? The self-harm, the eating disorders, the drugs, the alcohol, the sex, the suicidal thoughts, all of the things, right? Unhealthy coping mechanisms, because they don't know how to deal, because they don't know how to feel, right? And how many of you adults, how many of you parents, no judgment whatsoever, but how many of you parents kind of stuff down your emotions because you're busy, you're a mom, you're career woman, you've got all these things going on, and so you kind of stuff down your own stuff too, right? Now we have to look at trauma, right? So what happens when your daughter is stuffing down her trauma? Her trauma gets actually stuck in the body, and there's so much research out there to prove that this is what happens. So the trauma actually gets stuck in the cells and the muscles of your daughter's body. And so one of the things that I hear so often from girls who are struggling with depression is like, I can't even get out of bed in the morning. Like, I can't do anything. I can't take a shower. I can't make myself a sandwich. I can't do anything. And it's like, you've got so much stuck trauma in your body. Of course you can't do anything. Same thing goes for girls who are struggling with anxiety and panic attacks. Got so much stuck trauma and suppressed emotions and suppressed feelings from 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago that are still inside your body. Of course you're having panic attacks every day. Of course you're in a state of fight or flight every single day. This is not okay. We have to do something to change this. I'm not going to get into the investment. That's not what we do on these Facebook Lives. If it's something that you're interested in, you can set up a call. I need to know if we're going to be a fit to work together, like myself and your daughter. And then at that point, we can go into all of the details, Patty. So your daughter is living in a state and she's stuffing down all of those emotions, all of those feelings, and they get stuck in there, right? Talking things out isn't always going to be the thing that's going to cut it. For instance, therapy is a lot of talking. Your daughter has to heal, okay? We don't always do the healing work just by talking. Remember, the trauma and all the other stuff is lodged in your daughter's body. So she actually has to come into her body more, which I know sounds crazy. It's like, come into her body more. How does my daughter even do that? Well, through different healing modalities, your daughter can get into her body and start releasing everything that is stored inside of her. And it doesn't always have to be done through talking, which is the incredible part of healing, right? This also comes into play when I said your daughter has to create a completely different lifestyle. If she wants to let go of the panic attacks, she absolutely does. Healing is not a one and done. Healing has to happen over time. But what we do in my 12-week program is the girls get a ton of healing work. And then after the 12-week program, they get to continue doing the healing work. It's not like, I've been on a healing journey for 11 years. It's not like I just healed myself in one sitting and I'm like, I'm done, I'm healed, I'm good to journey. It absolutely is. Bipolar, Barbie, are you talking about bipolar? Yeah, I've worked with lots of girls who have been bipolar and they have anxiety and depression. If BPD, I think that's bipolar. Is that something else? Or is that borderline personality disorder? Tell me what you're talking about. Okay, so that's one of the things that these girls are not getting in therapy. It's really, they have to set up a practice of feeling their emotions. And this is not, I'm just gonna do it one day out of the week, but then the other 6 days, I'm gonna just stuff everything down again, because that's what's comfortable to me. I work with a lot of girls that come to me that are completely shut down. Emotionally, like from here down, it's like it's almost like dead. It's like empty, it's numb. They've made themselves numb as a way to cope with life being hard, but they don't feel. And here's the problem with girls that are doing this, right? You can't live like that. You really can't. And so this is why one mental health challenge soon multiplies into 2, into 3, into 4. So I see a lot of girls that not only are struggling with anxiety and or depression, but it leads into other things because they feel so empty and so numb and they don't know how to handle any of it. So that can turn into eating disorders, that can turn into self-harm, that can turn into drugs and alcohol use, that can also turn into suicidal thoughts, attempted suicide, right? So it can turn into all of these things. So it's a very slippery slope when your daughter starts struggling, because the trajectory of how long can this go and how long can it last, well, it depends on your daughter, really, and the help that she's being given. Right now, if your daughter is getting the help, that's great, but it's really only help if it's working, right? That's my dog. If it's not working, it's not really effective help then, is it? Right? So one of the things is the not being able to feel, right? The other thing is that your daughter doesn't know how to love herself, which is underneath all the anxiety and depression. So here's the thing, like the anxiety, the depression, the self-harm, the suicidal thoughts, symptoms, right? And so when we just try to tackle the symptoms, it's like we're just band-aiding the stuff, but we're not actually healing what's going on. We're not actually creating any lasting transformation. So we have to go beyond just that. And where we need to go is like, let's look at your daughter and let's look at her relationship with herself. Let's look at that for a second. I talked about this earlier in this Facebook Live, but so many girls are disconnected with who they are. They attach their self-worth and their self-value, whether a guy or girl likes them, right? Whether they're getting like whatever their grades are, right? Whatever college they get into, whether people like them or not, because they say they have these limiting beliefs. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I am not deserving. So when stuff goes wrong in their lives, they revert back to those beliefs. And their ego says to them, see, you are really a loser. And then they go, oh my God, I am one, right? Because still, they haven't learned how to love themselves. And so it's interesting because so many girls are coming to me that are suicidal. I've had numerous girls come into my program that have tried to take their lives like a week before coming into my program, right? And so we have to look at like, why are so many girls trying to kill themselves in like crazy numbers too? And so it's like, okay, so we can try to band-aid all of this stuff. We can try to just like, okay, like just tackle the symptoms. But really, when we look at it, why does your daughter or any other girl, why would any girl want to kill herself? Why would any girl want to cut herself? Why would any girl want to like do all of these horrible things to herself? Is your daughter loving herself? What is your daughter's relationship with herself? This is where we got to go, people. Parents. This is where we have to go, moms and dads. Right? It's not about all of this other stuff. You're trying all these things and it's like nothing's working and nothing is fitting and nothing's coming together. It's like a puzzle that's just like, God, we can't figure this puzzle out. It's not coming together. Right? What if the missing piece is your daughter still hates herself? That is the missing piece, right? We've got to get to the root issues. Why does your daughter hate herself so much? Why does your daughter live in a state of self-loathing every single day? Why does your daughter want to kill herself? Why is that going on? Why is that playing out? Or maybe she's not having suicidal thoughts, but why is she cutting herself several times a week? Why is she doing that to her body? Why? Right? Again, what is your daughter's relationship with herself? Right? So much of the time, and then we look at, well, this is going on and this is going on and she doesn't have friends and she's in a toxic relationship and this is going on and this is going on, this is going on. I'm like, it's just noise. It's just noise. What is your daughter's relationship with herself? How does she connect with herself? How does she slow things down to connect with herself? I'm sorry, I have a snoring dog right here. Is your daughter even able to connect with herself? These are the questions that we have to start asking ourselves. Oh my God, now my dog is really snoring. Annabelle, shh. We went to the snow yesterday, so she is, she's very tired right now. Your daughter is not connected with who she is. She doesn't know who she is. That is the problem. When your daughter doesn't know who she is trying to find her worth and her validation and her acceptance from all of these things that are outside of her. I need this boy to like me. I need him to love me. I need him to show me some attention, some affection, because I don't know how to give that to myself. I need the good grades. I need the A's, because when I get the A's and I get the good grades, then I feel worthy and deserving, because my self-worth is tied into achievements and grades. But it's not, I don't know what it means to actually be worthy without that stuff. Because I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am outside of school. I don't know who I am outside of my relationships. Why do so many girls go into small things happen in their lives and it blows up into the biggest catastrophe ever? Why? They don't know who they are. They've lost that connection within themselves, and their worth is not where it needs to be, because their worth is already inside of them, right? But they're attaching their self-worth in all the wrong things. Right? Your daughter being in a toxic relationship, an abusive relationship, and her not being able to get out of that. well, who would I be if he's not loving me, but he's not showing her love in the way that she needs to be loved, right? Maybe he hits her. Maybe he is emotionally abusive. But you see, but no, you don't understand. He loves me. That's not love. That is not love. But when your daughter doesn't know who she is, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to take Annabelle out of here in a second. I'm trying to talk about something important and I got a snoring dog right below me. Baby, it's okay. She's out like a log. So when your daughter, fails that test and makes that the biggest thing of her life, oh my God, how could I have failed that test? I can't deal with this. I can't deal with life. I should just end it. Where's her self-worth? It's in the wrong things. And they don't teach this in schools. They don't teach this in schools. So your daughter is trying to do her best in life, but she has lost sight of who she really is. So this work is not about, there's so many components of my coaching program. It's not about just getting rid of the anxiety and depression. Let's get rid of the suicidal thoughts. Let's get rid of the self-harm. Let's get rid of the drug use or alcohol use, or let's get rid of the eating disorder. Maybe that's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. What this work is really all about is your daughter finding out who she is. This is the most important work that your daughter will ever do in her entire life. It really is. Because when she knows who she is and when she knows that her self-worth and her self-value comes from within, and it's not from a boy, it's not from a girl, it's not from a grade, it's not from her whatever college she's going to get into one day, it's none of those things, guess what? She frees herself. And what happens when your daughter frees herself? Then she actually connects to the truth of who she really is. And then the anxiety, the depression, it just falls away. It's no longer congruent to the way that she is living her life. I look at anxiety and depression and eating disorders and self-harm and suicidal thoughts. It's like messengers. Your daughter is receiving a message, and is your daughter paying attention to the message? The message is, pay attention. Something is not right here. The way that you are showing up in your life is not working for you. But these girls are not looking for the messages. They're not even listening for the messages. And they don't want to hear it. They don't want to deal with it. They don't even want to do any, they're like, I can't. I just want this to go away. What if your daughter actually needs to lean into the anxiety, lean into the depression? Because on the other side of that is her freedom, right? This work is about your daughter discovering who she is. So she doesn't have to wake up one day when she's 30 years old or 40 years old or 50 years old or 60 years old and say, holy fuck, I still don't know who I am. Because I got married to the wrong person thinking that person was going to fill me up. And I did all these things. I had this career because I thought that was what I needed to fill me up. And I did this and I did that and I did this because I was all about achievements. And I still don't know who I am. This is the work. This is the work. This is the inner work. This is the transformation work. This is the healing work that your daughter do to change her life. This is it. So when we talk about anxiety, when we talk about depression, when we talk about suicidal thoughts, when we talk about the self-harm, the eating disorders, the drug use, the alcohol use, the toxic relationships, it goes back to one thing. What is your daughter's relationship with herself? That's it. What's her connection with herself? Where is her self-worth coming from? That's it. So when your daughter starts understanding who she is, when she starts learning about her mind and how it works and how to get into her heart and not live in her ego, she frees herself. She frees herself. And she gets to become the person that she wants to be. She gets to co-create with the universe. She gets to live her best life. She gets to show up in a different way. And she can do all these things. She can become that person. But she has to shift her perspective. She has to shift her thinking. She has to do the healing work. And she has to build that relationship with herself. So if you'd like my help, reach out to me. You can also watch, if you haven't watched my masterclass, it's called Healing, the New Medicine for Anxiety and Depression. I'm like so blessed and grateful for the girls and the young women that I get to work with each and every day that come into my program and they're like, I am ready. I am ready to change my life. And I'm like, let's go then. I'm so excited for these girls who have finally are getting out of their prison, right? They have to do the work. They have to show up. This is not just a easy transformation, like you snap your fingers and then you just transform your life. And look, but wasn't that so easy? But it doesn't have to be so hard either. And it doesn't have to take so long, right? Your daughter has to want it. She has to want a better life for herself. So with that, I will let all of you guys go. I feel like this was a very long Facebook Live, but I had a lot to say and I hope this resonates. Or if you have questions, leave them below. I will leave my masterclass below and you can watch that. And if you have questions, of course, reach out to me. Okay, I'm sending you guys all so much love. Bye for now.